The luxury hotel stood silent against the midnight sky, its glass windows catching faint glimmers of city light. Inside, the corridors were hushed, lined with thick carpets that swallowed every sound. But on the fourth floor, silence was broken. Thud, thud, thud. Room 407 shook under the weight of Jungkook's pounding fist. His knuckles were red, his breath shallow, and his voice, normally steady and smooth, cracked with desperation. "Open the door, Jimin. Please, open it." The words echoed down the dimly lit hallway, bouncing off the cream-colored walls. A housekeeping cart stood abandoned nearby, its towels neatly folded. The worker who had pushed it, now frozen in place, at the far end of the corridor, wide-eyed, unsure whether to intervene or disappear. Behind the door, there was silence, but not the kind of silence that felt empty. This was heavier, like something fragile had shattered, leaving only the soundless weight of sorrow. Jungkook pressed his forehead to the wooden frame, his heart beat louder than the pounding of his fist. He didn't care who heard him. He didn't care if staff whispered, if cameras caught him. The world outside this hallway could collapse, and he would still beg. Finally, the handle clicked. Slowly, the door creaked open. Jimin stood there, shoulders slumped, eyes swollen red as if he had been fighting a war within himself. His lips trembled, and for a moment, his gaze wavered, as though part of him wanted to shut the door again, to lock everything away. But then their eyes met, and everything, every wall they had built, every lie they had told themselves, crumbled. Jungkook stepped inside without waiting for permission, pushing the door shut behind him. The room smelled faintly of cologne mixed with the sharp sting of tears. The lamp on the bedside table cast a golden glow, too warm for the cold air between them. "Why are you doing this?" Jimin whispered, his voice so fragile it almost broke. Jungkook's chest rose and fell, quickly, like he had been running for miles. His jaw tightened, but his eyes, dark, stormy, filled with raw truth, did not look away. "Because I can't stay quiet anymore," he said, his voice trembling between fury and heartbreak. "I don't care about the company. I don't care about the rules. I don't care if the whole world finds out. I need you, Jimin." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was charged, alive with everything they had swallowed for years. Their breaths were uneven, the air thick between them. Jimin's fingers curled into fists at his sides, not out of anger, but to stop himself from reaching out, because he knew that once he did, there would be no turning back. Tears welled in Jimin's eyes again, spilling down his cheeks. "You don't know what you're saying," he whispered. "They'll destroy us. They'll destroy you." But Jungkook shook his head, stepping closer. His hand hovered, trembling, inches away from Jimin's. "Let them try." In that moment, time slowed. The ticking of the clock on the wall felt louder, like a countdown to something inevitable. The city outside kept moving, neon lights flickering, cars rushing past. But inside room 407, the world had stopped, and it was only the two of them. Two hearts breaking, two souls burning, trapped between fear and truth. The door clicked shut behind them, sealing the two idols inside. The muffled world beyond the walls, the whispers of staff, the hum of the city, faded into nothing. Only the strained rhythm of their breathing remained. Jimin stood near the edge of the bed, his back half turned, shoulders rigid. His trembling hands tugged at the hem of his oversized sweater, as if clinging to it for protection. He couldn't look at Jungkook, not when every part of him screamed to both run and collapse into his arms. Jungkook moved closer, his steps hesitant but firm, like each one was an act of defiance against the chains that bound them. He stopped just behind Jimin, close enough to feel the warmth radiating off him, yet far enough to remind himself of the dangerous line between them. "Jimin," Jungkook whispered, his voice rough, heavy with years of unsaid words. Look at me. Jimin's breath hitched. His eyes darted to the floor, anywhere but Jungkook. Don't, he said, barely audible. Don't make this harder than it already is. Jungkook's hand hovered in the air, wanting to touch, but not daring to. He clenched it into a fist instead, nails biting into his palm. Harder? You think living like this isn't already tearing me apart? His voice rose, raw with pain. Every time I laugh with you in front of the cameras, I want to scream that you're mine. Every time we walk off stage, I want to hold you without fear. But instead, I pretend. I pretend we're just bandmates. Just friends. Jimin flinched, his chest heaving as if the words themselves struck him. And you think I don't feel the same? His voice broke, and finally he turned. Eyes glistening, face flushed with anguish. Do you know how many nights I've stayed awake, wishing I could just stop this? Not because I don't love you. God, Jungkook, I do. But because loving you feels like a death sentence. The confession cracked the air like thunder. Jungkook froze, his breath caught in his throat. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then, without thinking, he closed the gap between them, his hands cupping Jimin's face, thumbs brushing away the tears before they could fall. Jimin's body trembled under his touch, torn between pulling away and melting into him. The world outside might have been waiting with knives drawn, but here, in this fragile cocoon, there was only them. I'd rather die loving you than live in this prison of silence. Jungkook murmured, his forehead pressing against Jimin's. His voice was steady now, as if the storm inside him had finally found its truth. Jimin's lips parted, trembling, but no words came. His eyes closed, and a tear slipped free, trailing down Jungkook's thumb. For the first time in years, the silence between them wasn't denial. It was surrender. Their breaths mingled, uneven, desperate. The air was so thick it felt electric, each second stretching longer than the last. And then, a sharp knock at the door. The sound jolted them apart like lightning. Jimin staggered back, wiping his face in panic. Jungkook's fists clenched, rage and fear flashing in his eyes. Mr. John, Mr. Park, a voice called from the hallway. It was their manager. Calm, professional, but laced with suspicion. We need to discuss tomorrow's schedule. Open up! The knock came again, firmer this time. Jimin's eyes widened in horror. Jungkook turned toward the door, his chest heaving, torn between protecting what they had just shared and confronting the inevitable storm waiting outside. For the first time, the prison walls weren't just metaphorical. They were standing on the other side of that door. The knocks grew sharper, more impatient. Mr. Park, Mr. John, don't make me call security. Jimin's pulse spiked, his hands twisting nervously in his sleeves. His whole body felt small, cornered, like a child caught in a forbidden act. They can't find us like this, he whispered, his voice barely holding together. Please, Jungkook, don't. But Jungkook's jaw clenched, defiance sparking in his eyes. I'm tired of hiding. Before Jimin could stop him, Jungkook strode to the door and yanked it open. The manager stood there, suit immaculate, clipboard in hand, his expression tight with something between suspicion and irritation. His gaze flicked from Jungkook's flushed face to Jimin standing behind him, red-eyed and trembling. For a beat, silence. The air was suffocating. Explain, the manager said finally, his tone flat but loaded. Jungkook's shoulders squared. He wanted to spit the truth right there, to burn the entire facade to the ground. But then he saw Jimin's wide, terrified eyes. That fear pierced him deeper than any contract ever could. So instead, Jungkook forced the fire down his throat and muttered, "It's nothing." Jimin wasn't feeling well. I was checking on him. The manager's eyes narrowed, reading more than Jungkook said. His lips pressed into a thin line. Both of you, my office. Now. Jimin's stomach dropped. Jungkook reached for him, just barely brushing his hand. a fleeting gesture of strength. But even that tiny spark of touch made Jimin's heart ache. The office was cold, clinical. Framed awards lined the walls, reminders of the empire they carried on their shoulders. The manager sat behind the desk, expression like stone. A single lamp cast harsh light over the polished wood, illuminating every line of tension on their faces. He set down his clipboard, folded his hands. Then he spoke. "You two are playing with fire." Neither answered. Jimin kept his head down, fingers gripping his knees so tightly his knuckles whitened. Jungkook sat rigid, fists clenched on the armrests of his chair, ready to explode. "You know what this industry demands," the manager continued, voice low and deliberate. "Perfection, discipline, image, and above all, silence about anything that could ruin what we've built." His gaze flicked between them. "Tell me I don't have to spell it out." Jungkook's chest rose sharply. His mouth opened, but Jimin cut him off with a small, trembling voice. "There's nothing to spell out," Jimin whispered. "We understand. It was a lie, and they all knew it. But it was the only shield Jimin had left." The manager leaned back, eyes narrowing. "Good, because if the public even suspects, if one rumor slips through, everything you've worked for, everything we've built, gone. Do you want to throw your careers away for a mistake?" Jimin flinched at the word. Mistake. It sliced through him like glass. Jungkook, though, bristled. His fists slammed against the armrests, startling even the manager. "It's not a mistake," Jungkook snapped, his voice raw, trembling with fury. "Don't call it that." The room froze. Jimin's breath caught. The manager stared, eyes sharp with warning. "You'd better get control of yourself."